Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
News for you this morning, Unity on the Bay. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I know. Getting closer every day, but a long way to go. And one of my imperfections is that I can tend to be rather cynical at times. And one of the things that I tend to be most cynical about is romantic love. Romantic love and me never really got along too very well, you see, because from the moment that it started coming into my experience when I was a teenager, it always just felt awkward to me. I didn't understand the mechanics. I just didn't get along with it really well, and usually I wasn't a very good date. In fact, I rather despised dating because it seemed very contrived to me. It seemed like there were unspoken expectations of the experience that you didn't find out until after the date, whether you met or not. And so in general, I just was awkward with the whole thing, and I was very relieved a number of years later when I was involved in helping my friend Kevin Rice put together his book called The Game of Love. This book is available in the bookstore, and it's going to cover everything I talked to you about this morning as well as a lot more in terms of recognizing relationships in life to be our means of salvation. Now, in the research of that book, what Kevin discovered was, and this was the point of relief for me, that romantic love, or courtly love, as it was referred to in the 11th century in France, is not a natural part of human evolution. I always thought it was. I always just thought it was something that should come naturally. But it was actually a human invention. Somebody invented courtly love and wrote the book on it with all of the instructions, the do's and the don'ts, and the how to be successful at it. So it was a game, and it was a game that I never played very well. As time went on, what I began to recognize is that there were certain attributes, certain dynamics in the experience of courtly love that were pushing my buttons a lot, that made it unreasonable for me. And I want to share 3 of those with you this morning. The first one is what I call hip pocket criteria. Unstated criteria that a person is being judged against without their knowing it. Does that seem fair to you? I have unstated criteria, let's say right now in this moment, that I'm not going to tell you about. You're not going to know about it. It's assumed that you should know a bit about this criteria without me ever revealing it. That's the first step, in my opinion, toward insanity. All right? I'm going to be evaluating you all day long, or I'm going to be evaluating you like in a 2-hour time period on a Friday night in a restaurant with lots of distractions, and you're going to be evaluating me, and we'll determine the next morning whether or not we think it's a match. Just didn't quite click with me. The second symptom of courtly love is IOUs. And what this means is that we have the belief that either we are indebted to another person or another person is indebted to us. It's often revealed through this statement, "After all I've done for you. After all, how could you possibly do this to me after all I've done for you?" It took me many years to recognize something, my friends. There's not a single person going to come across your path that you do not have an equal exchange with. You may not be aware of the equality of that exchange. From your perception or judgment, it may seem that you are giving more than the other person, but that is never the case. All encounters in the human experience are equal in terms of the contribution that's being brought. So if you feel like somebody else is taking advantage of you, I would encourage you to look very carefully at what you might be holding that other person accountable for in terms of what they're not bringing to the relationship. Look for it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody brings gifts that we like or love into relationship. One of the reasons why you may feel that you're getting the short end of the deal here is because the other person might bring you something into the relationship that you don't really want to look at, that you don't appreciate, or that you don't agree or believe in. And that's perfectly possible, but look as objectively as you can what possibly could be the gift that is being given to me that makes this an equal exchange. From a universal spiritual perspective, all encounters are equal. And next, and this is my absolute favorite, hidden agendas. Hidden agendas are invisible expectations that are only discovered when they are violated. Yes, there should be resounding laughter, and it should come up again in you all throughout the day, because it happens to all of us. You don't understand that something was expected of you until you don't provide it, and then you not only get a wrath for it, you get punished for it. You get punished for not fulfilling an expectation that you didn't even know existed. This makes so much sense, doesn't it? And we wonder why we struggle so much with romantic love. Now, though I'm talking about dating and romantic love this morning, I want you to hear me. This is not exclusive to people who are out in the marketplace seeking a significant other. This is true for all of us in every single one of our human relationships. These pieces come into play. We all have agendas that we're not being honest with. We have hip pocket criteria that we don't pull out until later in the game. And we all at times feel that other people owe us something. So what I did was I abandoned dating. Now, I have this lovely friend who, when I used to live in the Shores, I would go to the dry cleaners every other week. And she attended here off and on. She owned the cleaners. And whenever I would take my laundry in, she would look at me kind of interestingly, and she'd say, "So, is there anybody in your life?" I would be like, "Well, yeah, there's people in my life. Lots of people in my life. I mean, is there anyone special in your life?" God, no, there's no one special in my life, and I pray that there never is anyone special. Do you mean, am I involved in a romantic relationship? No. "Oh, that is such a shame," she would say to me. "Well, why is that such a shame?" "Well, you could do so much for someone else, and someone else could do so much for you." Let me assure you this morning, many people do many wonderful things for me, and I pray that I'm doing many wonderful things for other people, but I don't date. I don't date. I don't go there. To me, it's unsafe territory, highly unpredictable, and oftentimes volatile. So I just don't go there. Here's what I do instead. I befriend other people. Now, this is a big difference. When I befriend somebody, I'm not going with an invisible slate of expectations in the back of my head that when not met find me to be disappointed. One more time I lose out. One more time I don't find the right one. Well, God knows I'm never going to find the right one. Not on those terms anyway. Not on those terms of courtly love. Not on meeting somebody with the idea that we're just here to have a good time, but there's all this hidden stuff going on that nobody knows about. Neither party knows about this. So in the understanding that I'm about the business of befriending, I start where I always start, which is with myself, to look and evaluate what kind of relationship am I having with myself. To what degree am I holding hidden agendas or expectations against my own self, and thereby not giving myself the freedom to be who I am. Then I look at my relationship with God. To what degree am I befriending God? And I'll tell you what, you'd say, well, I'm a friend of God. And yet when you go to God, when you take times of prayer, contemplation, or meditation, do you have a hidden agenda? Do you have a hidden expected outcome that if not met is going to find you disappointed with God? Do you have ideas and expectations of a God that you're holding your God to be responsible for? You see, this works on relationship at every single level of our being. And finally, once we are clear in terms of having befriended ourselves, having befriended the divine identity or essence within us, we can begin to get about the business of really befriending others. And once we do that, things begin to change. The spiritual guide Osho has this to say, and these are words that when I first heard, I resisted. And just for the record, oftentimes in spiritual studies, the words I most resist initially are the words that I most need to hear. So if you find yourself resisting anything here that I'm about to share, just take an extra close look at it, because it may be that something is knocking at your conditioned self saying, look at this differently. Here's the words of Osho. Only those people who are capable of being alone are capable of love, of sharing, of going into the deepest core of the other person without possessing the other, without becoming dependent on the other, without reducing the other to a thing, and without becoming addicted to the other. They allow the other absolute freedom because they know that if the other leaves, they will be as happy as they are now. Their happiness cannot be taken by the other because it is not given by the other. To appreciate those words, we have to, I believe, appreciate and understand that we are brought into this human experience as complete packages, my friends. And so often, because of the conditioned belief system that says we're not enough, we find ourselves going out, whether it be through romantic relationships or any relationship with the world at large, trying to fulfill ourselves, trying to fill up empty spots within our soul that can only be filled by what we already have in the depths of our being. Now, this may seem to sound rather self-centered to you, that it's all about me, but I assure you it's not. Because you see, once you begin to realize this unlimited reservoir of love, harmony, peace, goodness, fulfillment that lies within you, you begin to see then that the reason why there's all these other people in your world is not so that you can get from them what you think you need, but so that you can give to them always and forever. Be giving, be a fountain, be a perpetual fountain of love, of gratitude, of goodness. Do you not believe that the world needs this kind of example right now? People who are not looking for what they can get because they realize they already have everything they need. They're looking for opportunities to give. How can I give? And a wonderful thing about giving is that the more that we give, the more we discover we have to give, because this resource is unlimited in nature. We do not have a second-rate God who put us on the planet empty and without anything. We are given everything we need, so much so that our only obligation is to share it with others. This really tips the scale for me on relationships, because it realizes, for me anyway, that I must first become a master at the art of being alone, recognizing that we are never alone. We are always in the midst, in the presence, and in the power of God. So this understanding becomes paramount to me. And one of my great spiritual gurus, the American mystic who's no longer with us on this plane of expression, Joel Goldsmith, says this: when we enter our sanctuary of spirit, we must leave outside all worldly wishes, needs, and lacks. We must drop this world and go to God with but one idea: communion with God, union or oneness with God. Thus, our times of prayer become times of simply wanting to experience, to taste, and to feel the embrace of divine intimacy. Oneness with this benevolence, this peaceful power that created us. I'll tell you, once you've been embraced by that presence, everything else in your world will pale in comparison. But when you do experience the embrace of another human being, it will not be the embrace of clinging. It will not be the embrace of trying to fill yourself up with something that you don't have. It will be an experience in ecstasy, the greatest ecstasy you can possibly experience, because when you know that it's all within yourself, you begin to recognize that it's all within every other individual as well. And you come together not as two needing and clinging partners in life, but as two strong, independent spirits that want to share in radiating light to one another and to the world as brilliantly as possible. Now, that is a relationship, my friends, that is truly worth pursuing. And the great news is you don't even have to pursue it, because as soon as you reach that level of divine intimacy with yourself and with God, I guarantee you they will be lined up out on Biscayne Boulevard waiting to spend an evening with you. And I'll be right there with them. Because a person who has reached that level of self-acquaintance and self-strength is irresistible in nature. It just happens. It's because you're so full of the divine essence that you are that you become an irresistible force in the world for it. Joel Goldsmith calls this experience of entering the inner sanctuary tabernacling. You tabernacle with the indwelling spirit, the intimate presence of God. And you get to a place such that you wouldn't even consider asking God to do anything for you. All you would do is recognize more fully with each passing moment what you have already been given. And the most natural response is just what Jason told us in the meditation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, I had no idea how exquisite the divine reality of my identity actually is. And what a rush it is to share it with other individuals. I mean, this is the romance of a lifetime, my friends. It takes any kind of experience in love that you've ever had, no matter how great it is, it bumps it up so many notches. It's indescribably delicious. And in truth, it's what this Valentine's Day is all about, to recognize this power within you. And then what happens when you begin to become a radiant light of it, sharing it with others freely as you were intended to do. And suddenly your relationship completely starts changing with everybody. I'm so grateful to say this, and I say it with a sense of great humility and gratitude this morning. I have never in my life been surrounded by so many deeply loving and harmonious relationships. Everywhere I look and everywhere I go. I don't take any credit for that, save the fact that by the grace of God, I was given rules for a different way of playing the game, and here they are. These are symptoms not of courtly love, these are symptoms of divine love. Are you ready? And they're, no surprise, exactly the opposite of the symptoms of courtly love. First of all, honest disclosure. Honest disclosure. I'm not going to keep my criteria in my hip pocket. I'm going to be authentic and vulnerable. I'm going to share with you my strengths as well as my weaknesses. Now, this is not easy to do. It can be nerve-wracking going on a first date, but you ain't seen nothing until you've gone on a first date and said, I'm here to be totally authentic and vulnerable with you. What? You own any judgments you are casting on yourselves or other people. Secondly, there's no IOUs in divine love. You recognize everything is an equal exchange. Nothing is due. Nothing due. Will you say that with me? Nothing due. There is not a single relationship that you will ever have where somebody owes you something, because every encounter, every exchange is an equal exchange. Our needs are fulfilled through our relationship with God. I noticed that Reverend Juan was sharing a quotation he used in Wednesday night's service here at Unity on the Bay by Havertz, and it was so significant I wanted to share it with you this morning because it speaks directly to this point. Listen to these words. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. You see, when you approach another person, not after all I've done for you, but after all the universe and God has done for both of us, it begins to generate this light. It begins to generate a love beyond anything you can imagine until you start to live out of it. And finally, instead of having hidden agendas that nobody's talking about, but everybody's holding each other accountable for, agenda-free rapport. Can you say that with me? Agenda-free rapport. We identify and take responsibility for the expectations we are holding toward ourselves and others. We entertain others for the sake of being in their presence and do not expect them to fulfill the destiny we have designed for them. Hear those words. Is there anybody who you have designed a destiny for, and now you are expecting them to fulfill it according to your wishes? And you might initially say, no, not me. Look again. Because we do this not just with our lovers, we do this with our friends. We do it with our children big time. We're not going to tell our children we have all these expectations, but everything we didn't fulfill as a child, we now want them to fulfill as a child. And they know it when they don't meet it, whether we say it or not. They know it. People know it. It's like, I get it, you know, I knew I wasn't doing something right here. My friends, it's not that you're not doing anything right. It's just that you're playing by insane rules. So, stop it. You know, there are more sane rules to play by, which is you don't owe me anything. I'm not hiding anything from you. What you see is what you get, and I'm here. Take me or leave me, but I'm here. I'm vulnerable. I'm authentic. I'm exposing myself, and I'm asking you to do the same so that we can get this relationship and all of our relationships off on honest territory, honest footing. It makes sense, my friends. It just makes sense. So this Valentine's Day. What is it, Tuesday? Okay. Like I told you, this is a challenge for me because while I'm not particularly fond of romanticism, I am definitely a romantic at heart. So this Valentine's Day, take heed to this message. Love yourself. Do something kind for yourself. Acknowledge something that you are bringing to the world that nobody else is bringing. Find another person then that you can express your love toward. Bring them into the fold as well. You can even take them out to dinner, yes. Go on all the dates you like, but don't let those experiences be marred by an insane system of judgment that says they owe you something, or they need to live up to your expectations, or that your qualifications put upon them are appropriate and reasonable. It is not so. We are all here as fully empowered individuals on this journey. We're here to bless ourselves, to bless our God, to bless one another. And if you really want to have the Valentine's Day of your life, move forward, move into that morning and every morning of your life with that attitude. I guarantee you'll find there's nobody can love you better than yourself except God. And once you've got that, you're going to be spreading this love all over the city of Miami, our country, and our world. And everybody needs a little love right now. God bless you.
That was good, right? Yeah, I heard you over there. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. If you were here last week, you heard Reverend Juan read a whole list of organizations that Unity on the Bay supports because of your giving. And this morning, I want you to be aware that your giving also helps us, and it's historically helped us, create teachers and ministers in Unity on the Bay. Reverend Juan was an example of that this morning. So as you're preparing your offerings, I'm going to call forth the ushers. Think about that. Just think about what you're putting into action when you give. When Chris was talking about giving, I remembered a quote, "A candle loses nothing when it lights another candle." A candle loses nothing when it lights another candle. So I'm going to give you a moment to fill out your tithe and offerings. And if you're watching us on Facebook, you can give through our website. Yes, we're live on Facebook right now. And one final reminder, if you have a pen, you can put it in the offertory basket when it goes around, because we like to recycle those. All right, so together we say, "Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive." Amen.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.